with halachot of Retze VeHachalitzenu. What if someone doesn't know? They're mesupak. They don't know if they said it or not. So the halacha explains very simply, if they do not remember if they said Retze VeHachalitzenu in Birkat HaMazon or not, they do not have to go back and repeat their Birkat HaMazon. Why? Because the idea, the institution of Retze VeHachalitzenu, of mentioning Shabbat in the Birkat HaMazon, is only derabanan. And if there's a safek, if you have a doubt whether or not you said it, safek derabanan lekula, Rav Ovadia says, and you don't go back and repeat your Birkat HaMazon. Now, what about Retze VeHachalitzenu in Seudat Shelishit? This is a big discussion. We're going to try to make it as quick and concise as possible. If someone forgot and didn't say Retze VeHachalitzenu in Birkat HaMazon of Seudat Shelishit, ukvar siyem kol habracha, he finished the third baracha and he began well into the fourth baracha. He should finish the bracha, finish Birkat HaMazon, and no need to go back and say it again. Why? Because the idea behind this is we're obligated to have bread for 2 meals on Shabbat. Our first Seudah, we have it Friday nights, and the first morning Seudah, that we have Shabbat morning, some people extends into the early afternoon. The third Seudah Shelishit, the third meal, although it's an obligation, although it's important to make and have bread, there are machloket poskim, rishonim, achronim, what you need to have necessarily to suffice your Seudah Shelishit. Some say obviously you have to use bread. Some say no, even mezonot can work. Some say fruits and vegetables. So because there's a machloket, for that reason, if someone forgot Retze VeHachalitzenu, he does not have to go back and repeat his Birkat Mazon in Seudat Shelishit. That's an important halacha. Now, all of this applies only so now there's a bunch of kickers. The idea where, let's say you're still we explained yesterday, you're still in the in between zone. You finish Bonei Yerushalayim, you didn't yet start the fourth beracha. You can also add that extra bracha on Seudat Shelishit. That only applies during the day. If you're saying Birkat Hamazon of Seudat Shelishit while it's still before sunset. However, many times, very often, Seudat Shelishit extends into after sunset, meaning we're prolonging Shabbat ending with our Seudat Shelishit. If you're benching, saying Birkat Hamazon after Shabbat ends, or even after, let's say, 20 minutes after sunset, at that point you would not need to mention this extra bracha of Mekadesh Shabbat if you forgot, even if you remembered at the right time. Now, this is a very unique exception as well. Adam she'achal b'Shabbat baboker lachar kiddush minei mezonot. Someone who add in kanisa, minyan, Shabbat morning, mezonot. They said kiddush, I had mezonot. I said I was kovea my seudah. I had a meal via mezonot, not actual meal with bread, but you made mezonot after kiddush, and then you also said ala mechia. But the real seudah that he had with bread, with meat, with his seudat Shabbat that we would call a meal, he had that after chatzot, had that afternoon on Shabbat morning. And in that seudah, he forgot to mention Retze VeHachalitzenu. So let's recap. Friday night, he had a meal with bread, very good. Shabbat morning in shul, he had Bor Priya Geffen, and then he had mezonot, enough of mezonot to make ala mechia. Now comes 2 p.m. Shabbat afternoon, he has a real meal, bread, meat, you name it, beautiful. And in that meal, he forgets Retze VeHachalitzenu. Rav Ovadia and also Shmuel Zalman Auerbach both explain that Dino Kedin Misha Shachach Retze VeHachalitzenu beSeudat Shelishit K'mukvar Le'el. He is considered like he's in Seudat Shelishit, and therefore he doesn't have to go back if he forgets Retze VeHachalitzenu. It's a big chidush. It goes against the rule that people assume to be true, and the reason for that is because the mezonot meal that he had constitutes and can count, according to some poskim, as a seudah, which makes his third meal, quote unquote, or his hamotzi meal, considered like the third meal, which falls into this category that if you forget Retze VeHachalitzenu, you do not have to go back. Have a wonderful day, and please join us for the siyum downstairs.